Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there,
How dare you!
all guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
He's one of the most enigmatic characters of the Bible, because you just have little blurbs and bits and pieces about him. But if you just restricted yourself to the Bible, it's definitely something that is hinting toward missing context. There's something these people that were reading this and the people of this time knew that we're missing. And you can see that because kind of how they talk about in the Bible about this guy. It's like, you're supposed to assume and you're supposed to already know why God hated Esau, and things like that. So it's like you have the birth, come out red, covered in hair from head to toe like a hairy cloak. I thought it was just fascinating how the writer threw in, all the detail of the birth, that basically his foot was pushing on Jacob's head and Jacob was clutching his heel. So it's almost kind of like a snapshot of Genesis 3:15 there. And it's not far from the telling of that dragon slayer prophecy, as Timothy Alvarino likes to call it. So you kind of have that law of first mention rule going on there with biblical scholars talking about how they use imagery and words to point back, to certain events. And he, trades his birthright, and that to me, like I said earlier, just didn't make no sense. And then you have the people like some of my pastors and stuff growing up, he was just a very carnal man. He let the desires of the flesh rule him. He was just hungry, and that's all he was concerned about. So he just traded away the birthright. And then, he was just hairy like your uncle. He just had a good beard. But the problem is the context. I mean, when you go on and he tries to get the blessing from his father Isaac, Rebecca has to kill a goat, take the skin of the goat and wrap it around Jacob to fool his blind father. So, I mean, this wasn't hyperbole. This wasn't poetic language. No, Esau was literally so hairy that he felt like a goat.
Yep.
And if you've ever felt of a goat's fur, man, I mean, it's thick, it's coarse, and it's oily. I say it kind of jokingly because you have to, because it sounds so crazy, but I mean, it's the truth. If you let scripture say what it says, and you've seen a character described as Esau is described without hesitation, you would say, I just seen a Bigfoot. I seen a Sasquatch. And the Book of Jasher says that Esau was alive during the time of King Nimrod. And they both were, their claims to fame, as you mentioned, Josh, they were the mighty hunters. In Hebrew, that was Gibborim, the same word used to describe the Nephilim giants. And in the book of Genesis, we hear that Nimrod wasn't born a Gibborim. It says that he became a Gibborim.
Yes.
And a lot of people theorize, was this, sexual magic, rights to manipulate the DNA, or was this scientific, or some kind of spiritual, selling your soul, to the Nakash. There's all kinds of theories circulating on how he became a Gibborim. But in the book of Jasher, it says that Nimrod looked upon Esau with jealousy and hatred all of his days. And the way it words it is that Nimrod goes out with two other Gibborim, and they go to try to hunt down Esau. So it's kind of like Disney's Beauty and the Beast. You have Nimrod, Gaston, the great hunter, trying to take down this hairy beast to get the notoriety of being the one that took down the mighty beast, and mount that head on his mantle. That's his missing piece. And it says that Esau sees him coming and basically hides in the woods or the brush or whatever. But it says that when they approach and they turn their backs, that he springs out and takes his sword and cuts off the head of Nimrod. And then he battles these other two Gibborim, and he kills not one, not two, but three Nephilim giants and the king Nimrod. And it says that he takes the time to remove Nimrod's garments. And it just says, it gives like just this little blurb. It says, he removed the garments to which Nimrod was able to rule over all the nations. And it says he takes it back home and he hides these garments. And then he goes into the tent of his brother Jacob. So that to me tied in a whole lot of loose ends to that trading that birthright. Genesis just says he comes in from the field exhausted. You daggone right he was exhausted. He probably sustained some life-threatening injuries in this battle, you would assume. And he just killed the king. He's on the run. He's desperate, probably bleeding out, looking for somebody to sew him up, feed him, and get him back to health.
I don't know if that's
And you
something
remember
to do
that
with
Noah
garment.
movie? Was it 2014?
Yeah.
I always thought
Russell
that
Crowe,
was
right?
Yeah. I thought that was so blasphemous. Stone rock giants helping build the ark and all this stuff. But there's some things in there, man, that they got right. And
Yeah,
it wasn't till now that when I read the ancient Jewish texts and stuff, and I'm like, whoever wrote this was taking a deep dive into the Book of Jasher, the 9-book series from Louis Ginsburg, The Legends of the Jews. And this person did their homework.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I found these things that I seen it, because it's like a hidden Easter egg in that film. But the garments are in that film.
I didn't know
When
that.
the show starts off, it shows Adam and Eve in the garden as like these light beings holding hands. And then all of a sudden it shows this snake, and the snake opens its mouth and it sheds its skin. It sheds its coverings. And there it is. It's gold and shimmering and, and like diamonds. I mean, this thing was supernatural. And what happens? Adam walks straight over to it and picks it up in the beginning of the film. And then later we see that King Og wears it wrapped around his arm like a bracelet, and it is the signet ring. This is the crown. This shows everybody who's in charge. And in that film, Og sneaks onto the boat. Ham discovers him, and Ham is kind of like Gollum. He sees this shiny gold skin and he's obsessed with it. If you remember, he just, like when Og would be asleep, he would just stare at it and wanted to get it. And at one point, he even gets brave enough to try to steal it, and Og wakes up and grabs him by the throat. And he says, "This is for a man, and you are not a man yet," and then throws him down. And then later, him and Noah, Og and Noah, get in a fight, and Ham has to pick a side. So Ham stabs Og in the back, and Og turns around, and he's bleeding out of his mouth, and he says, "Now you're a man." And he hands him that snake skin.
Wow.
And then in that movie, it depicts Noah being drunk, and that Ham walks up and sees him. And you remember it shows him throw something down and walk away. He throws that bag that had that snake skin. So he was in the film walking away from his birthright and that signet. And the movie ends with Noah wrapping that snakeskin around his arm. And what does he say? He says, "This is the birthright given to Adam. We are told to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over the earth. He said, and now I pass this blessing to you. And the head of the serpent was on his finger. And he takes it and he touches those two newborn babies. And as he does, that snake skin just glows and lights up. I think we see the garments in the uncovering of Noah's nakedness, because it says in there, for the people that don't know, Nice taught that Ham just walked in and his dad was drunk and passed out naked, and he seen him and was cursed, or he might have poked fun or maybe looked at him too long. But when you get into Leviticus 17, it says, to uncover thy father's nakedness is to sleep with thy father's wife. And this was an act of rebellion in the ancient world. Absalom run David out. The first thing he done, he pitched a tent on top of David's house and went into all of his concubines in the sight of all of Israel. Reuben slept with his father's concubine.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Yep.
This was an act of flexing on the old man back in the day. So it's like Ham wanted to take over the family and either slept with his mother like they were willing, or he raped her. We don't know, but it just says that he uncovered his father's nakedness. And with the context of Leviticus 17, he laid with his mother.
Yeah, you don't just curse a whole line by just because you joked about you being naked. You did something.
And the curse makes sense because you always get the opposite of what you want. He wanted to be the ruler and have everyone serve him, but no, instead, a servant to your brothers ye shall be. And I even think that Canaan, because it says, cursed be Canaan. Canaan wasn't even born yet if you follow it chronologically. So it's like Noah realizes his wife's sporting a baby bump that's not his, and they're going to name it Canaan. And he found out it's his son's kid. So he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant to thy brothers that he shall be. He will serve Shem and Japheth. And I was like, Shem and Japheth would be his uncles, not his brothers. The only way they could be brothers is if they had the same mother. So the beginning of the Canaanite race was an incestuous union, so it was doomed from the beginning.
Wow.
And those garments, it says he takes this garment. Remember, it says they take a garment and walk backwards and cover their father's nakedness. Well, when you go to the Septuagint, it doesn't say a garment, it says the garment. Wow. So it has a definite article assigned to it. And this was the symbol of kingship and priesthood. He was trying to take the leadership role of the house. So how fitting, even theologically, would it be that the eldest brother took the symbol of kingship and priesthood and laid it back on his father? Yeah. But I had David Rowe on the show, and he is an Egyptologist and historian, and he was talking about the coat of many colors, this garment. And they've recently found archaeological evidence to even collaborate, these biblical stories, because he said the ancient city of Avaris is a known Semite, which is the archaeological term for Jewish people, and that they had built this settlement in Egypt. And at the center of the town was this huge house that was for like a high official, and that there was even a pyramid tomb. And only, government officials and people of high importance had these pyramid tombs. And it said that when they excavated it, that it was empty, but they found shards and pieces of like this large statue. And they started putting it together. And they said the first thing they noticed is that it had yellow painted skin. And it said that was not an Egyptian thing. That was a Semite thing. Semites painted their depictions, their people, with yellow skin. And it said then they got to the head, and the head had flame red hair. He said that's not an Egyptian thing either, but that is a Semite thing. And it ties into Jacob and Joseph. The red hair was a dominant gene. And then it says draped over the shoulder of this statue was a coat of many colors. So that they believe in this ancient city of Avaris, they found the home and tomb of Joseph. And then David said, and why was it empty? He said, the book of Genesis and Exodus tells us that. He said, because when Moses went out, he gathered the bones of Joseph.
Even in the book of Ezekiel, when it's talking about Lucifer in the garden, and he has all these different stones,
Yes.
I think that is his Ocatarian, right? And what does that look like? Well, if you take a P1000 camera and you look up to a star, you're seeing it look like different jewels, and people might think I'm crazy, but the way I read the Bible is and just like Justin was saying, when you look up at that, the third of the stars are gone. Well, what are the stars like? Even at extra biblical texts, they would be angels, right? So that could be the Ocatarian, could look like what you see in a P1000 camera when you look at these stars. They're shining in different colors that look like jewels, and that could be angels up there, and that's what their Ocatarian looks like. The same thing that's described in the book of Ezekiel when you look at Lucifer, when his Ocatarian, different colored jewels. Now, am I crazy? Maybe, but look what the Bible says in about all the stars falling to the earth. What does it say in the book of Revelation? All the stars are going to fall to the earth, right? It says in the book of Isaiah, it's still prophecy of that same situation, and it says all the host of heaven. What are the host of heaven? It's the army of angels. And I'm not telling you guys that every single star is a angel. I'm just telling you I think that stars are a type of angel, like a different sect of angel, and they're doing a certain motion in the sky. But then these wandering stars, which are planets, which we happen to just call different gods. And in the book of Jude, they're actually judged. So they are doing a different formation. So what are they doing? They are being disobedient to God, and they're doing their own orbit, if you want to say that, or if you want to say their own motion. And that is probably why these different things are called, Saturn and Jupiter. And God warns us in the book of Deuteronomy, don't worship the stars. And then also when you go to Ephesians 6:12, it says what? That these dark are principalities of evil are in what? Heavenly places or high places. So that's where the battles are happening between earth and heaven. And that's where
that's what I was going to say, on earth as it is in heaven, because I like how you went with it, because I was just kind of looking at the physical and the symbology, but you always have mirrored images, earth and heaven. When the Israelites are battling on earth against their enemy, it says the angels in heaven are also battling. But I was looking at just from like the symbology and the physical side, because like you said, it says in Ezekiel 28, it's talking to Satan. It says, you were in the garden of God, perfect in all your ways, till iniquity was found in you. Every precious stone was your covering. And it lists, sardis, beryl, onyx, topaz, jasper. It's according to what translation you read. The Masoretic text lists 9 stones, but the Septuagint lists 12. And this is a carbon copy mirror image of the priestly ephod. I kind of coined my show the hero's journey. You gotta go into the unknown, slay the dragon, rescue the damsel, hoard up some treasure, and then come out on the other end as a hero. But hey, your journey's not over yet, because all great journeys, when you get this prize of great wealth, you have to turn around and come back to humanity and bless humanity with this prize of great wealth that you've earned. And symbolically, allegorically, that is the fire, Christ. And you come back and you give that prize of great wealth to someone else, and you start them on their hero's journey. So come join us on the hero's journey. I'm on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can consume content. Same thing with the social medias. Just search up Prometheus Lens Podcast. I'm pretty active. I usually put up sometimes 2 to 3 reels a day, so lots of little knowledge nuggets and infotainment, I like to call it for you. And the book's on Amazon.
Yes.
Where are you from, dude? Where do you live at? Texas or something? Or
No, I'm a hillbilly, man. I'm from the Appalachian Hills of East Tennessee.
Oh, right on, man, right on. Our family's from Kentucky, so.
Oh yeah.
If you get me out there when I go over there, when I go visit them, instantly I start talking that way. It's weird. It's like it just comes right in. I'm like, hey, how you doing? It's like, what'd you say? Like, I come back like, why are you talking like that? I was like, I've just been around a whole bunch of my family members, and it's cool. It's like cool ass slang talk, man. I like that. It's like, dang, man.
Got a twang.
Yeah, I got that twang.